We're looking in this little creek out from Saldotna. There's salmon coming up here. Coming up in here to spawn. We'll try to catch one coming through this little area right here. Saw some come through here a few minutes ago.
Up the fish water.
Beaver been coming in here, this was just man. Bears coming here tonight too.
They're just wallering around down there. Right below me. Came across this little fish ladder here. This little spillway. We try to catch one going up that ladder. Saw one swimming around at the base of it just now. Maybe he'll make a run for it.
big moose we found over here next to, right close to, close to the Church of God here. She's just standing there looking at us. Yeah. It's on. It's on. Wow, she's tall. Got long legs.
Turn it
It
on.
won't come back. Oh, there it is. It's on there.
Pretty flowers in the field here where we saw the moose. This is a view of Cook Inlet just before we get back into town, heading south from Glenn's old church. They've got a scenic turnout where you can get this view. I don't know what this facility here is. More stuff over there, I can't make it out. There's some mountains over there in the background. Kind of chilly here today. It must be about probably 60.
This is the municipal park at Kenai.
Just coming into Houma, we stopped here at this scenic turnout. Get some pictures of the mountains and the flowers. Pretty little park here. Can't see the mountains real good, and this haze up there, fog, got them obscured. RV park right there on that bluff. We're up on the hill overlooking Homer, high above it, looking out over the spit. Foggy and hazy down there, can't make out a lot. Mountains over there. We're going to be leaving here tomorrow going to Seward.
Good Friday. How big? 9.2. 9.2 on the Richter scale. 22 minutes after that initial shock, which lasted 3.5 minutes, people got up off the floor or off the ground when the shock had knocked them down. Up the bay came that Japanese gentleman that no one ever wants to meet.
We're out on the Kenai Shore,
Tsunami.
going to see some
Bicyclically
whales
generated
just
waves.
leaving the port.
Third wave to hit the city 22 minutes after the
Just
initial
pulled out
shock
of Seward.
was 40 feet high. Around 14 meters high. It played crack the whip, hit the front of the town and swung the rest of the way in a big arc and wiped out the railroad tracks. Took the burning oil that had ignited when the tank farm was the Oregon-Florida border, 1,700 miles from here, wiped that the town out. So, 9.2 on the Richter scale, that's 35,000. And I'll be pointing things out. The waterfall is the end of a diversion tunnel. Laurel Creek is sweep through town and periodically flood Jefferson Street. Corps of Engineers ran a tunnel through there over 40 years ago. Coming up on over 50 years ago. Taxpayers got their money on that one. We have about $1.5 million grant to claim.
The remains of the fort built back in
There are two classes of whales. This is safety, mustache in the mouth whales, and those not for safety, tooth whales. There he is.
Whale out
There
there.
she blows. Where? There's a whale. We seldom see them in this close. You folks are pretty good whale callers. are they're true Alaskans. They're true Alaskans. They spend their winters in Hawaii. About 75 to 80 miles a day at sea. It takes them about 30 to 40 days. And from the time she left here in September, 2,400 miles, gave birth, nursed her calf, and returned, she's had nothing to eat. For baleen whales, southern waters are a desert. No dissolved gases. The water's too warm. No phytoplankton and zooplankton. The life that you see of the tropics is all on the reef. All on the reef. So when she gets up here, what does she do? She eats. Exactly. Can't stand up and stretch your legs easily, but if you like sitting with your feet out in front of you for a while, really enjoying being close to the water, sea kayaking is the way to go. It can be kind of exciting when a whale surfaces right next to you in a sea kayak. Well, this whale's being a bit elusive, but then his business is feeding. Our business is moving you along to see some other things. So he may come up again, but we'll have other chances. There, right here, right next to us.
Right out here.
Right out here. Right here, right next to us. When they're deep feeding, which means on a very bright day when the phytoplankton is very deep, you're more apt to see their flukes show. See the calm? Wonderful. Typically 3 or 4 inhalations and exhalations on the surface, and then humping of the back, arching, and the display of the tail flukes. Be ready for when they come up. They are so hydrodynamically slick that they actually smooth the water and leave that footprint. There she is. Watch the hump now. No, next time. Since he or she is feeding shallow, you may not see the characteristic humping of the back because it's not going deep. Hump back, wait. All marine mammals are protected under the Marine Mammal Protection Act. This one's been very obliging by coming to us. It's against that act for us to harass or to go to them. As long as we keep moving in the direction that we're moving, that's fine. And this one seems intent to be near us. There she blows. There's the arching. Now still a little lazy. Maybe one more time. Think about it. Whales hold their breath 90% of their lives. How do they sleep? They set automatic pilot on and they rest half of their brain and they keep moving in a line that's non-collision course. They
pretty close
sleep
to
at
you.
sea, of course. Plays out. Dolphins do the same, all the cetaceans, sleep at sea. When they're in a sleep mode, you'll see them just cruising the surface, slowly breathing in and out. Glacier. If you fly over the glacier, you'll be surprised, well maybe you won't, the scale's pretty large. That's sticking 60 to 80 feet above the surface of the glacier. 100 years ago or more, about 100 years, Bear Glacier probably reached the sea here in Resurrection Bay and was calving into the ocean. But it built a recessional moraine, and that moraine was taken over by vegetation, and now there is mature Sitka spruce. Well, that takes about 100 years for that process to happen. There's a large lagoon, though, inside, about a mile long and a third of a mile wide. That floatplane is going to land there with kayakers They're in the park boundary is right here, and they're going to do some kayaking on that inside lagoon. Just feet above the trees, above the tree line. The wind has pushed them up on the beach. Those are about the size of a 4 to 6 unit apartment house. They're big. They're big. The Harding Ice Field is a snow accumulation out here behind us in the Gulf of Alaska, about 800 miles during.
Coming up on the Holgate Glacier.
Remember the Salmon?
He's supposed to pull up close to it and stop.
You'll like it. No bears. And I guarantee no bears. If this don't work, you call me. Whoops. Bears, yeah. Yeah. But
You see some flags floating along the water, breaking off the glacier.
Spring on the ice to give birth to their pups. So look, I've seen 2 or 3 harbor seals now, either on the ice floes or very close to them. The geology of this region was done by U.S. Geologic Survey team headed by Higgins and included U.S. Grant III, grandson of President and General Grant. He taught geology at Northwestern University in Evanston, Illinois. My dad took geology from him in 1921 and got a B. I'm a geologist. My dad was not a geologist. Holgate was a dean at Northwestern University. And if you're the first one here, you get to name lots of things.
Oh, I saw them getting called.
So the next fjord over is called Northwestern Fjord, coming off Harris Bay. And a major glacier there is called Northwestern Glacier after Northwestern University. This one is Holgate, H-O-L-G-A-T-E. Holgate Glacier, named after the dean. Over here on the black wall of the country rock, you see those horizontal white quartz veins. Superheated waters came up from very deep. How many? 320. If you've been saving up a lot of destructive thoughts all winter, here's your chance to get rid of them. Let's bring some ice down. What makes that ice so blue? You know old Roy G. Pitt? You know Roy? You know Roy G. Pitt? There you go. Yeah, you tell us who Roy G. is. Colors of the rainbow. Red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet. Okay. Listen to the glacier. Hear somebody shouting, "Let me out of here." That's old Roy G. sunlight penetrates this clear crystalline substance, which is frozen water in the hexagonal system, breaks it into its spectral colors. Red, orange, yellow, and green are absorbed within the ice. The higher energy level blue, indigo, and violet come out of the ice to strike your eye and give you a bluish tint. The deeper you look into the crevasses, the deeper the bluish color, the violet end is. Meltwaters come from beneath the glacier. Waterfalls on the side of the glacier. And all the time, the crystalline material is cracking, breaking, moving towards us about 5 centimeters an hour. Do it move. Now, you know that sound travels about 670 feet a second, this temperature. See that wave coming towards us? From the time you saw it to the time you heard it, give you some idea of how far we are. Still taking entries into the Ranger Bob sweepstakes. How high to the Seracs up there? 1,100 feet. The ice starts at the Harding Ice Field. This is another one of the outlet glaciers. Comes down about 3.5 miles. So the steepness of this one, there's some. Those are big pieces of ice, folks, like the size of the school bus. We're quite a ways from the glaciers then. Constantly moving forward, moving under the pull of gravity. 450 to 500 up to the top of those seracs, those fingers of ice.
I was downstairs to be on the front of the ship, but then he turned. Approach the Beehive Island, you'll see that there's vertical segregation of the housing. The custom buffet reveal their reptilian or Dinosaurian past by digging underground burrow developed. Farther down on the rocky outcrop will be the horned puffins. Common bird will be on the horizontal shelves, and kittiwakes will be down near the waterline. About 10 of those species here on the island. These islands form part of the National Maritime Reserve. These are set-aside areas for marine mammals and for marine birds. The elsids, read the puffins, are true pelagic birds. They spend their whole life on the surface of the sea, except for the short period they come in here to raise a single chick. Here. So one hand for the rail, that'll keep you steady. The animals spend their whole winter out at sea, about 250, 300 miles. The puffins have a serrated beak, and they carry whole fish back to their single chick. The reason for doing that becomes apparent when you realize that most birds feed their young regurgitated foods they've already eaten and they bring back up again. Not so the puffins, because when the puffin matures and the parent figure is ready to fledge and fly, they stop bringing food and more or less abandon it. It's on its own, so great fear and trembling approaches the edge of the cliff and launches itself into the air. It never flown before. It'll flap and squawk all the way down, hits the water. And when it does, it has to know that what it eats are whole fish. So its parents have been feeding it fish all along. Kittiwakes, when we come around the corner, kittiwakes are members of the gull family. They have much more parental care. They hang around and help the chick figure out what it is that they're feeding her. Nesting on the beehive island. See them incubating eggs. They have an interesting survival approach. Female lays 2 eggs about a week apart. That way she can be sure or hopes that at least one of them will hatch. Very often both hatch. And parents are pretty hard pressed to deliver enough food to keep 2 hungry chicks fed. One chick, of course, being a week older, is a lot larger than the other. So while the parents are out shopping, the larger of the chicks decides to indulge in a little fratricide, throw this younger sibling over the side of the nest to his death. The parents come home from shopping and say, yeah, so there was 2 when we left, but there's only 1 now. That one gets then the food being brought by both parents, and that enhances its chances of survival. Black-legged kittiwake. be approaching these hauled out stellars from both sides. We're going in one way. So you focus on the 3 o'clock side, and then we'll swing around and get the 9 o'clock side as well. There's extreme dimorphism in this species. The human male is about 20% larger than the female. Not so with stellar sea lions. The male bulls are about 2.5 times larger than the female.
Not so far away. Thanks.
Females are about 600 pounds. The bulls are 1,800 pounds. Some of them reach even 2,000.
Look at that big fat one.
The bulls arrive before the females and do what they do.
That big hole. I'm dangerous. This boat is very wobbly.
These animals do quite well on their articulated flippers. They walk on their wrists. They swing their pelvis around underneath them. When Stella first saw them, the males were here fighting for control of space. And to him, they did look like African lions as they charged each other. Hence he called them sea lions. Often in the spring we see them running blood down their necks and backs because they've been heavily slashed as they've tried to fight. About 2 weeks after the males have made their territorial claims and have won the various battles they'll be engaged in, the females will arrive. This is not a birthing rookery, this is just an all-out. On the birthing rookeries, females all arrive early May, and within a 2-week period, they all give birth. On that haul-out, you'll see the placental material, and you'll see crows and ravens, and even eagles will come down to retrieve the placental material. Pups are born at about 25 pounds. Out on Chiswell Island, the one you see over there at 3 o'clock, the big one, that is a birthing haul-out. That's where we have 4 live action video cameras that are powered by solar panels and wind generators. And we have real time and real sound live at the Alaska Sea Life Center from the Chiswell Islands. That's a great leap forward in our understanding of the behavior of these animals because it's very hard to put a person out there. For one thing, the very presence of the human will change. Put that pregnancy on hold and wait until November. With a 7 months gestation, then all of the females give birth at the same 2-week period without regard to when they got pregnant during the summer. See back there into the grotto? Ever try to get comfortable on a piece of rock? Ever figure? Yeah. Gosh, there must be some way to keep this thing from pushing against my back. They do have a heavy layer of blubber. Protects them against the coldness of this water. No, when they're just fresh out of the water, they look sleek and gray colored, and as they dry, they get that kind of golden brown. Not a very thick pelt, not like the fur seals that ended up in seal coats. They rely on their blubber more. There was a puffin decided he wanted to land up there, but the Murs told him otherwise. Lots of puffins in the air, see them? Lots of Murs in the air. We weigh 275 tons, and we draw just 3.5 feet of water fully loaded. Right now we're probably drawing just about 3,
Oh, 40 inches there with that. Now there's a picture of our paddle wheel from the back of the boat.
We're on board the Discovery stern wheel. Going on the sightseeing tour out from Fairmount. Going down the Chena River.
That airplane. Looks about here, yellow. That's what we're down. That's the throttle of the fireball. It's like 40 miles an hour here.
He's putting on a little demonstration for us.
So they asked Bill for some suggestions, and he said, why don't you say that maybe he was airborne? That kind of intrigued the doctor, so that's what they put on the birth certificate. Now you can see Bill on your television monitors, or if you look straight ahead of the boat up here, you'll see him directly ahead of us right now. Right before he gets to the, just right of that house on that ridge up there, he's going to do a slip. He'll tip that plane right up on its wing, right about here, and slide right out of the sky. Rather steep descent right there. Now he comes out at treetop level, right in front of the big house on the ridge. Now, if you want a landmark, look for that house downriver, or that riverboat downriver, that Discovery 1. I'll tell you more about that boat in a minute. He's right over top of it. Now he's going to come right up river toward us. Now he's going to put the flaps down, cut way back in the power. Watch those willows right at the edge of the water. Pretty reflection. This is grand. Right over the willows, drop the flaps, put the airplane on the ground, and bring it to a stop right here at the bow of Discovery 3. Well, what an energetic way to start the evening, huh? Hey, Bill Johnson, thank you very much. Beautifully done. Thank you, sir. Get around. About 1 in 57 Alaskans is a licensed pilot. More licensed pilots per capita in Alaska than any other state in the Union. Well, before airplanes came into this part of the world, long before that, there were steamboats. The heroes and the legends of the steamboat era were riverboat captains. They operate boats very much like this, where most of them powered by wood and steam in those days, of course. Steamboat era, he'd been running freight in the 1940s and 50s. He decided that he didn't want to see it all disappear, so he built Discovery 1 down here and started this company and carrying passengers ever since. One of the few guys to ever run the entire length of the Yukon River, its headwaters in Canada, all the way down to the Bering Sea. He and his wife Mary have been married for 52 years. 3 sons are riverboat captains, 11 grandchildren, 2 of whom are riverboat captains. They trained on Discovery 1, that little vessel right there. I'll tell you more about Discovery 1 and the fun that we have on that boat on the way down the street. Now those boats that came in the early days did come after gold. The interesting thing about gold is you got to have a lot of water for mining. Turns out the water was conveniently located right here at the Chena River, but the gold was rather inconveniently located on the other side of that ridge, over on the other side behind the pump house, headwaters of Cripple Creek. Now the pump house was built back during the gold rush to suck the water out of this river, 10 enormous centrifugal pumps. Floated that ditch all the way around to the other side, in fact, the President and First Lady were on their way back from China as well. They stopped at Fairbanks to refuel Air Force One and wait for the arrival of the Pope and the entourage. They met at Fairbanks International Airport. Exciting time for our little town. That brown house was owned back then by Alaska's junior U.S. Senator Frank Murkowski, who moved out. The President and First Lady would have the house to themselves. Murkowski's moved into this house on the right-hand side, which they also own. It has one of the few private outdoor swimming pools this far north. They've sold that house to their son-in-law and daughter. But on the right, you can see a little Pullman car, right in the bushes at the edge of the river. That's where the senator and his wife stay, give them privacy and see the grandkids and get away from Washington, D.C. from time to time. Now just here on the left-hand side, you'll see a very nice log home. That's been under construction for all natural materials. You can see it's got the stone foundation, the natural log, composition gravel roof. Nice stand of those white spruce trees in the background over there. That is our largest evergreen in this part of the world. Now you all recognize the name Susan Butcher, 4-time winner of the Iditarod Trail sled dog race, 3 times in a row, 1,100 miles from Anchorage to Nome by dog sled, about 10 or 11 days. Just over here on the right-hand side, you will see the kennel where the pickup truck, that's the kennel of John Verbeek. He's a well-known dog musher in these parts. He was retired from the sport about 3 decades ago when Susan Butcher showed up in the country about 25 years ago. Susan Butcher was on her way to veterinary school. She met John Verbeek. They started talking about dog mushing. She bought 3 dogs and she never left Alaska. Among the dogs she got at that kennel, the lead dog, Tekla. Tekla led Susan and her climbing team to the top of Mount McKinley, the only dog mushing expedition to ever conquer the highest point on the North American continent. Here I was downriver, we didn't get past this birch tree, but it is a handcrafted Alaskan log home built by the owner. And he got permission to harvest those logs about 15 miles from here. They were all over 60 feet long and 20 inches diameter at the base. He skidded them into this site, hand-peeled them with a draw knife, just like the pioneers did. Let the logs cure for an entire year before he built the house. Then he let the logs sit for an entire year and let them settle before he cut in the doors and windows and finished it up. It did take about 5 years to finish that white spruce log home. Now here's another pretty home, and I do like to point this out, the triple glazed windows. But look at those windows carefully, folks. Isn't that a nice reflection on us? Triple glazed windows. Some people are using quadruple glazed with 4 panes of glass. We get up to 21 3/4 hours of daylight this summer, down to 21 3/4 hours of darkness in the winter. Temperatures from 60 below to 90 above. Walls will be anywhere from 6 to 16 inches thick. Ceilings anywhere from 12 to 24 inches thick. Most people, by the way, heat with fuel oil. Some folks heat with wood. Speaking of wood heat, look over here on the right-hand side. See that brown house with a little smoke coming out of the chimney in the middle of the yard? That's a wood-fired, wood-stave hot tub. Now there's actually what they call a snorkel stove. It's an underwater stove. You can drop the wood in, get it started, and then it heats the water from underneath. Now it heats up to, say, about 108 degrees. Over here you've got a little, this is our dog and pony show. Who says there's no wildlife on the banks of the river anyway? We always have a good time with our neighbors. They are just some of the neatest people. The youngsters have a good time. Just here on the left-hand side, you can see the old boatyard where Captain John Grant with some yellow roses around his neck. Those roses and the trophy of the 1988 Iditarod are located outside the galley here on board Discovery 3. There's the great lead dog Grant right there. Folks, I want to introduce you to some very fine handlers here at Trailbreaker Kennels. One is a young champion of the Arctic Winter Games, and another a handler for many of the Iditarod folks up at the other end of the Iditarod. I'm going to say hello, and I hope you say greetings. Good evening to Stacy Dublin over here. Stacy?
Hello, and good evening, and welcome to Trailbreaker Kennel.
Well, thanks, Stacy. And what you got in your arms there?
Well, I have one of our newest additions to the kennel right here. This puppy's just a week old, and she got a beanie, one of Susan's prize leaders.
Now, you mentioned prize leaders. Yes, we'll wait till it quiets down just a second here. Yeah, you can hear me now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so that little fellow right there, now how much will he weigh, or she, you know, when they get to be adults? That starts out small. What do they weigh when they get big?
Oh, when they get big, they can weigh anywhere from about 35 pounds to 55 or 60 pounds. It's usually what they run for an Alaskan Husky.
Now, Susan Butcher talks about, you know, sort of this real close relationship with the dog. She said, I think, socialization. What does that mean?
We sure do, and I'll tell you about that as soon as I give this puppy back to Chrissy, so she can take her back to Beanie. Beanie, still being the puppy being a little young, she likes us to not take them away for too long. Susan and I, we start with the puppies right at birth. We're with the moms, they're giving birth with the puppies, just to make sure everything goes smoothly. And after she's had time to bond with the puppies and clean them up a bit, we start our socialization process with them. We pick each one up and we blow gently across their noses. And they learn our sense of smell because for the first 10 days their eyes are closed. And then we progressively work on with that. But because Mom has had this done to her because she's been raised in our kennel, she knows to trust us, and all along we've always been there for her. So she learns to know it's fine if we bring her puppy out for a few minutes when they're little like this. And as they get older, like some of these 8-week-old pups here, we can take them for a whole day and moms are fine with that.
And as you watch these youngsters then, what are some of the other activities you might engage in as they sort of train to learn to be on the trail one day?
Well, at about 6 weeks of age, we start these guys' real training process. We'll take a group of them, like these are 2 batches of them, with some of the retired dogs, like Poppers and Flashback here, and even their moms. We'll go along the river here on some trails we have cut through, and there's lots of obstacles. There's some logs like this, and some streams and puddles, and those obstacles to a 6-week-old puppy can be large and kind of scary. So we're there to help them over them and around them, and let them learn to trust us that we're always going to be there when the going gets rough.
And when do they finally then get into harness and start learning the go and the stop and the G and the haw and all that?
Well, between about 4 and 6 months of age, we start that process. You see the white pups that are here on the wheel, they're right about 6 months of age. So they've already been put in harness. Last winter they got to go before the snow really melted. We'll put them in we try to put about 6 of the dogs in with a couple of our leaders, and they take off like they're just a miniature team, like they've been doing it all their lives. Susan has a saying that it takes us 2 minutes to teach them to go and 2 years to teach them to whoa.
It's a little like a 16-year-old with a driver's license, as I recall. But now, you pointed out the doggy go-round over here. Maybe it's a good time to help sort of explain to people what that is, and perhaps some of the other training activities that you engage in here in the summer.
We sure do, as you saw a few minutes ago. Flash decided he didn't want to have the puppies chasing him around. But yeah, we do a couple of different things during the summer. When it's cool like this and raining, we're able to take the dogs out on 4-wheel carts and train that way. And then when it's kind of warmed up a bit, like it was earlier today, we weren't able to go out. So we take them like in our riverboat here. We take about 15 of them at a time down to an island on the Tanana, and we let them run out there. They get a lot of exercise there. We also have a lake back here that they love to swim in. Then, as you said, the merry-go-round that we have here is a modified horse walker. Each dog has their own space, their own chain, their own house, and a platform. So when we turn the wheel on to exercise them, they have a choice. They can run around and exercise, or they can get on the wheel and up on their box and decide, I'm just going to take a ride today.
Are the dogs really pretty much allowed to make certain decisions like that, when to exercise their antlers after the rut in the fall and start growing new ones in midwinter? The antlers are all in velvet, as you see them there. Velvet is a layer of skin and tissue that protects the blood vessels that carry nutrients into the antlers as they mature. And once the antlers are fully mature, then they shed the velvet and the antlers will develop a rich mahogany coloration. On the Asian market, these antlers are worth several $1,000s per set. They're ground up into a fine powder and used for medicinal purposes. Now that fish wheel, we'll have a live picture there for you momentarily. And we're going to just hold in the current. The captain will just kind of keep us right there, the paddle wheel and forward, and we'll tell you a little bit about what's going on. And then Dixie Alexander is joining us. Now Dixie, we pointed out in the village, she's a full-blooded Athabascan Indian lady born and raised north of the Arctic Circle in the village of Fort Yukon. And as you might expect, she knows her culture exceedingly well. Her real gift to us, however, is the remarkable way that she teaches and demonstrates the many skills of the Athabascan culture. We're going to have a marvelous opportunity to learn from her in ways that I could never explain to you about this culture. In the fish camp, you can also see some little dog houses, and I point those out because people do say, well, now, you got all this raw meat collecting here on shore. What about the bears? Well, we don't have a lot of bears in the first place here, but the dogs would serve as an alarm if any bears came around. So your insurance policy is to take the dogs out to fish camp to chase the bears away, or to let you know the bears are coming so you can add them to your food supply. Now we're going to just stop right here next to the fish wheel in a moment. Dixie Alexander has joined us. She'll share some more of her culture with us. I think we're within earshot right here. We want to say good evening to Dixie Alexander.
Good evening. I'm real pleased to be able to share just a little bit about fish camp life with you. This camp here is very similar to the camp I grew up on the Yukon River. My family still fishes at the same spot today. Our camp is located about 30 miles above the village of Fort Yukon. Very similar to this, although I think our camp up there is much larger than this, and that's because I come from a big family. I have 6 brothers, 6 sisters, grandparents, and lots of cousins that always visit us in fish camp. So we have a lot more canvas walls like the 2 back here. Very comfortable to stay in all summer. We fix them up really nice. Sometimes if it got chilly at night, we just build a fire in the wall tent. But it's really exciting for the whole family to be able to spend all summer outside, especially after being inside most of the winter. And our smokehouse is much like this little one back here, but larger. Other than that, our camp on the Yukon River, very similar to this on the Tanana today.
Well, you mentioned a lot about multiple generations of family and the importance of the culture, Dixie. Well, how important was fish camp to the family?
This was an excellent opportunity for the whole family to learn many different kinds of skills, but me and my sisters, once our chores were done around camp and the salmon was put up in the smokehouse, we would learn how to tan moose hide, caribou hide. We also learned how to do beadwork, porcupine quill work, and lots of skin sewing for winter clothing. And all these skills we would learn from my mother and my grandmother. But this is also a good time for my brothers too. They learned how to build fish wheels like this one here, which they still do today, and to make snowshoes and dog sleds, and they learned these skills from my father. That was the main purpose we went to fish camp, because in the wintertime my father went trapping, and he always checked his trap line with dog team. He usually kept about 22 dogs, plus puppies, and each one of his dogs would eat 1 dehydrated salmon a day, so you can imagine how much salmon we had to harvest for the whole team for the whole winter's use. And that's not even including the salmon that we put up for ourselves. But I remember many days my father would move around the fish wheel till he hit the good spot next to the cut bank where the salmon would run pretty strong. Some days he would even turn off the wheel. We could catch up to 200 to 300 salmon a day. And when we're catching that much salmon, everybody in camp stays busy.
Well, speaking of busy folks, you can see the smokehouse is full of salmon. They've also got some drying on the drying rack. But here's a salmon caught in a fish wheel near here. And Dixie, could you tell us a little bit about that one?
This here is a chum salmon. We also have a nickname for this guy. We call them the dog salmon. And the only reason we call the chums the dog salmon is because they run twice in one season. Therefore, we can catch a lot more of the chum salmon, more so than the kings and the silvers. So it makes sense for us to use them for the dogs. I've seen them get up to 26 pounds. This one here is a really good sized salmon. I'd say maybe 13 pounds.
13-pound salmon. Folks that are shooting video, keep rolling, because you're going to get a 1-minute video here that will astound your friends. She'll dress that salmon in about 30 seconds. Now, starting right in front of the tail, she just cuts through and forward on either side of the backbone, slicing nicely up along the spine, back from the spine, and separating the viscera and the backbone from the fillets. She'll remove the head, split and dry that, and set it aside. That's a source of calcium and protein for the dogs. It keeps very well for winter. So does the backbone, actually, so she'll set that aside as well. And then she will take out the viscera and all the scraps and cook that up into kind of a mulligan stew for the dog. She'll score the meat diagonally right down to the skin, so it'll create lots of surface area when she hangs it up. And there you have it in about 35 seconds, a 12-pound salmon dressed and ready to go. How about that? Now, the smoke is a natural preservative. Drying is a good part of preserving the salmon as well. And it'll keep like that for up to 2 years without any refrigeration. But Dixie, what is next for the salmon for the dogs?
Well, when we're catching a lot of salmon, we don't like to put a wet salmon like that directly under the smoke barrel. So we use this air drying rack over here to air dry the salmon for about 5 to 10 minutes until it gets a nice tacky texture. Then rotate it into the smokehouse, rotate it all around the smokehouse until it's thoroughly dehydrated. Once it's dehydrated, it doesn't weigh that much at all, very light. This is really important when my dad goes on a long trapline trip. The weight of a set is important.
Well, then what's the difference then, Dixie, between what you did for your dogs there with that salmon and what you do to make smoked salmon for your own family?
Well, when we make salmon for ourselves, we're really picky about how we fix the fish. We'll wash it really good first and then put it in a nice salty brine. Then we would smoke it with a really good sweet wood. And up here we use alder wood. Makes for a good tasty salmon. But when we were making salmon for the dogs, we don't do any of that. And we just smoke it with cottonwood or spruce. They're not too picky.
Well, there's a lot of information in a short period of time. I want to say thank you once again to Dixie Alexander. We'll also say hi to Judy, who's come out from Fish Camp to visit.
I'm sorry, I was speaking to
Watch how she catches salmon up now. She has the fillets on either side, pulling it right by the tail, but with the feet facing out. She'll hang that over the poles inside the smokehouse. That little building on the shoulder is called Cabin. That's where they store the smoked dry buffalo salmon all around. Inside those wall tents, you can see caribou hides on the ground. They're actually on spruce boughs for very comfortable bedding. There's a Yukon stove in one of the wall tents to heat it up a little bit if it gets chilly in the evening. If you're watching a little bit on the right-hand side, that little motorboat will go by and beat us up to the village. We'll see Dixie, and you'll visit her summer home and see some of her out on the trail. And it's cooled off a little bit this evening, Christy, and I've noticed that the cooler the weather, the hotter the dogs. They're really giving you a ride, aren't they?
Oh yeah, they really do love to run out here. Well, before I go back to the dog yard, I'm going to introduce you to the team I have up here. Up front in the lead position, I have Colors. Now, Colors directs the dog team down the trail, and she does this by listening to my commands. G, which means turn right, and Ha, which means turn left. Well, back here in swing position, I have Cecil and Bailey. Now, both these two dogs also direct the dog team down the trail. I wait for one or the next I also help them out by kicking or running behind them. Well, these guys look like they're raring to go, but not before I say, welcome to Chena Village and have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Christy. And Susan Butcher's dogs are ready to start going. Look at them leaping those traces right there. Now, she gets that snow work up. She's standing on a brake, but watch when the dogs start to pull, even with her foot on the brake. She gets off, gives a little bit of a boost, dances right up on those runners, and she's on her way. Watch over here by the trading post again. She'll come right in front of the trading post. Flag in the background, the flowers right there. A beautiful postcard to show your friends back home. Out around the bend, sliding nicely. Imagine twice that many dogs on a snow-covered trail. They'd be really flying down the road. Now back here in the backstretch, if you're outside, listen carefully for a right turn command. The right turn command is G. And G, they went right in the kennel. Thank you very much, Christy Cookwood and Susan Butcher's dogs, folks. An energetic start to our visit here at the Chena Indian Village. Well, here's how you get off the boat. We'd like to invite you on down here. You're in the front half of the boat, about the middle on forward, head up past the galley and the pilot house there. If you're in the back half of the boat, under the flag on the top deck, and toward the back half on the third deck, there are stairs on both sides. And that'll get you down here smartly off the third deck. There are stairs on both sides of the back of the second deck as well. You just turn around and head to the gift shop. Keep this riverside set of stairs in mind, folks. Over there on the riverside of the boat, there are nobody on those stairs right now. Here on the shore side, it's a little bit of a bottleneck up on the top decks. Now we're going to be on
Get what one? All I'm going to get is antlers.
It's hanging out to dry.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
See how that's how they do it. See how
What does it have to be
they
like
put the
that?
5 branches where you
light. I just didn't have enough light.
Still pictures.
Huh?
You know they have my business card?
Okay.
Yeah, we do.
We've been visiting an Indian village along the way. We're getting ready to get back on the boat now. We're at the University of Alaska Botanical Garden. Got a lot of flowers and vegetables planted here where they're doing some experimenting. We went on the paddle wheel boat yesterday afternoon. I don't think I had the date on the tape, but we're out here today looking at the flowers. This is a flowering cabbage. Petunias. Along with a lot of other things. Got signs up for the different varieties. More petunias. A lot of pretty colors. I don't know what all of these are, so I'm just going to shoot the pictures. Couple of different varieties of sunflower, different colors. See some more sunflowers over there. Sweet peas growing up the wire there, they're not blooming yet. Red salvia, lilies. vegetable garden part of it. These are all potatoes, different varieties, have different colored blooms on them. All potatoes right in here. This is the broccoli section. Some great big old cabbage. More cabbage. He must have a heavy load of oil in there. I think I counted 6 engines. And he's still going by. These are cauliflower. They say they tie them up like that to keep the heads white. Big bed of squash here. Somewhere down in there you can see the squash under the leaves. Several different varieties of lilies over here. Bees are really working on these flowers. They're enjoying it. My expert tells me these are delphiniums. They're even raising some spruce and some pines here. Trellis is made out of vine. Vine and sticks, look like. Beehive out here on the outskirts of the garden. Oh, they're busy. Mama wants to build a garden like this, up waist high, where she won't have to stoop over. Pretty neat idea. Lots of little bitty tomatoes. They just loaded, but they sure are small. Salad tomatoes, she said. Tomatoes pretty high up here. We saw some at the market the other day. It was $3 a piece. Of course, they were bigger than these. There's some onions. We're leaving the garden now and go see what else we can find. Looks like this place was built at the site of an old dairy. The old outbuildings are still back there.
Sunglasses on, take a while, but it'll be dark. When we get inside here, keep elbows and young ones in. You're going to find it very comfortable. Nice, good, fresh air because of all these segments have been treated. There's no ammonia or sulfur smell at all. I'm going to show you some of those. I'll let Tim do that. Remember, Tim's going to be on the right here, folks. He says good afternoon to you. Please give him a big hello, Tim, and train. We're going to come to a stop. Once the B train stops, you folks on the outside on the left can stand up here and get a good view if you'd like to. Hang on to those. Bar folks here visiting. The B train has just arrived. Would you take some of your expert time now and talk about our tunnel drift mining, please?
Sure. Good afternoon, everyone. Hi. Got a rowdy bunch this afternoon, Earl. Well, as Earl said, I'm here to share with you a little bit about how they did tunnel drift mining back in the old days. As Earl may have mentioned to you, those miners spent their winters digging. They would begin by digging shafts straight down until they hit bedrock. Now behind me here against the wall, you can see what that bedrock looks like. The bedrock is settled down below here. It forms a distinctive line. It sort of goes up this way, and goes down over there. Everyone see that line? Yeah. Here anyway? Now for those of you in the back, the same formations may be more easily visible for you in the far face back there that we have lit up for you, as well as this face here. Point this one out too. The bedrock begins down below here, forms a line that goes up this way. Now this is all bedrock that's been broken up and moved around and heaved and buckled. You might notice with this particular section how the bedrock slanting down is dipping underneath me here, and it comes back up over on this side. Now that heaving and buckling is the result of thousands and thousands of years of activity in the Earth's crust. Plate tectonics and seismic activity are other, more fancy scientific names used to describe that kind of thing, where over the years different stones and minerals are moved around and shaken up and deposited in various locations of the Earth. Now, when those miners were digging these tunnels, what they were looking for was, of course, gold. And as they knew, gold is extremely heavy. So, over the years, as the Earth was heaving and buckling, breaking up this bedrock, it was also breaking up the gold-bearing quartz, which freed the gold and allowed it to settle and trickle down through all of this material down to the bedrock, where it would drift along and collect into pockets. Now those pockets are what the miners were chasing, and that's why they would dig down this far. Now obviously though, when the miners discovered the gold would settle down this deep, the problem they were facing was how first to get through all of this material above it, which at first was pretty difficult for them. Because again, thousands of years ago, during the Ice Age, all of this material froze solid, became known as permafrost. Well, being underground is nothing new to miners, and they quickly discovered that mining these permafrost tunnels was, well, relatively safer and easier for them.
And when we do stop, I know we have some young ones on the outside on the right. Stand right up, hang on to these rafters, get on the seats, and look across here. The little one's right up there. How about a big hello for me for Louie? Say hello.
Hello, Louie.
Smart young miner, look at the cabin. It's built right inside the mountain. Simple reason, easier to keep them warm during the cold winter temperatures. Even stoked up a little wood stove for us so we can see that working. The material on the roof, logs and moss he got right here from the surrounding area. He already got some material from the creek in that bucket. He's going to put it on the top of our portable piece of mining equipment, and we're going to demonstrate it. screen in the top. Inside, they look like ribs. They're called ripples. It's on rockers. That's why it's called that. Look at this. See the action? Screen catches large rocks, now and then a good-sized piece of gold, and everything travels down over top of the wood ripples. Working on the fact I mentioned to you that gold is 19.3 times heavier than water. Getting a gold pan, you'll take some material from the wood ripple area. We want to spot test here and get the same time you get an idea what panning looks like. Let's see how he does. Any luck in that one there, Louis? Not that one, okay. Afraid not, that somebody said up here. Good call, sir. All right, we'll wait till everybody's seated, please, and then we'll head on to our next spot. And here we go. Thanks, Louis. The big cylinder in the background with a double wood-fired boiler, the water cannon, old wood sluice box, and right here by these cables, by the shaft, here's where you want to aim your pitchers, okay? Mike's going to go ahead and bring them up. Here he comes.
Well, as I was saying, at the bottom of these shafts here, they have one of those door cars, like what the guys are putting along. They lower one of these iron muck buckets down the shaft so they can unload the ore cars into the bucket. They would then hoist them back up and run them along here up to that pole called the gin pole. And they'd be unloaded. They would then come coasting back down and slam into these logs here to be reset for the next load. And those piles there got pretty big. So they direct new gin poles around as they needed to for more room. When the summer times would come, they'd let those piles thaw out so they could wash all the gold from them. That required a great deal of high-pressure water. So their summer work would begin by trenching for miles the tops of these high ridges here, which would serve to collect and channel millions of gallons of water downhill to these hydraulic water cannons. Now, those water cannons would then be used to blast those piles clean and wash all the gold through their sluice boxes they'd have set up nearby. Now, in those days, the sluice boxes were pretty crude and simple. They're made out of wood with wooden ripples and burlap to catch the gold. Nowadays, they're made out of steel, with steel ripples and various forms of carpeting, much more efficient that way. Now, I'm here next to Stephen is the boiler I was referring to. They were fueled by wood. They would consume an entire cord of wood a day. They would clear whole hillsides to keep them fueled, and that's why they called them the dragons, because they would eat so much wood and breathe fire.
Bringing around safe and sound, and all that knowledge that Earl's got. I'm Yukon Yonda. This is my husband and mining partner, Dexter Clark.
Well, gold afternoon, everybody.
Yes.
Are we ready to get some gold?
Yes. Oh, kind of, sorta.
How about one more time? Are we ready to get some gold? Well, that's good. See, Yukon and I and the whole crew here got just two things to do this afternoon. We would like to help each and every one of you find some gold, have a little fun at the same time. We're all ready. We got a stockpile of some of the best pay dirt you're ever going to see. Within the backhoe's reach of what has got to be the longest sluice box in Alaska. A word of caution about that sluice box. We do want you all to have fun. We picture a gold mine as a tunnel or shaft right up in the mountain. Well, that's where you find the hard rock gold miner with the pickaxe and the dynamite. That stubborn donkey. What do we got? Got something in there? No gold. See, I'll get to that. I'm going to explain to you why we're not going to see any gold right up on top. We're just concerned more about your safety. So there's that stubborn mule following that old hard rock miner up around the mountains. What are they looking for? A precious vein of gold-bearing ore. This placer gold mining is a whole lot different. Less than one out of every 100 gold mines worldwide can even use this method to get the gold out. So you are going to see something very unique. Now, we're not going to crush any ore, nor use any chemicals. There'll be no negative impact on the environment because this is an all-natural process. Downside, First thing we got to do here is wait.
Yep.
Yeah, wait like about 30,000 years for the same gold that was formed up in the rock of the mountain to be crushed out of the ore by the forces of nature. The same forces which crumble huge chunks of those mountains down into the boulders and gravels and sands that gather together at the mountain's base, eventually forming a stream bed. The gold from the mountain vein becomes placer gold when the water deposits that gold in amongst those same sands and gravels.
I found this material works its way through this box and grabs the gold.
Down to pan up there, get settled in comfortably, dump the entire boat stack into the gold pan at one time, toss that bag aside.
Thank you. As we ease on through here, on your left is the Discovery Shaft, on your right is one of the older ones. See the 4 poles tied together with a pulley to a bucket? That's the reason a mechanical lever and a pulley, of course. We're going to give you double whistle. Roger, front, please step up. Roger and I. Anybody back there? Marcel? Folks, thank you so much for being our guest. Whoever brought the nice day, thank you, because we've had some rain. Please remain seated till we come to a full stop and we'll head out to our coaches and vehicles. And all our friends from Fairbanks and friends of ours that we know on there, thank you for bringing them by here. We appreciate you very, very much. Thank you, Mr. Engineer. Roger, goodbye, everybody.
We're watching the eagles in Chilkoot Lake State Park near Haines, Alaska. Kind of sidetracked down this way on our way back through Canada. Came down to Haines to look around. A lot of eagles down here. Watching one up in the tree there. Nice state park here, surrounded by mountains. Lake out there. We've seen several eagles in the trees around here. Need a stronger lens to get a good picture of them. There's one over there. Gotta be some fish in there. Those eagles sitting up in the tree waiting for them. Watching salmon spawning amongst the rocks here in these rapids. Got this weir across the river here to keep part of the salmon out. There's a place out in the middle where some of them go through and are counted. Eagle up in the tree there with a young one. She just flew up there. That's good. There's an eagle sitting down there eating a fish or something. Those girls trying to get her away from him. There you go. Real pretty area in here. Chilkoot State Park. Come down here to this river to fish. We're waiting for them. A lot of dead fish along the bank. Looks like a bare path right there. Dead fish laying up on the bank. A lot of dead fish and live fish in here. They waller out a hole in the bottom with their tail to lay their eggs.
There's two of them kind of racing, see it? Yeah. Yeah.
This is great.
That's something.
Maybe had 20 on that side. Yeah.
Oh, is it? You had to pick the one that was winning, didn't you?
This is exciting.
Two different streams come in here, and then this is take.
Oh, look at them coming all the way around the bend. See it?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they're just coming all the way up. There's probably two of them doing their thing.
I asked that ranger there, and he said, sure, he said, we ran. He said, the male guy, right? And I thought he said, yeah.
There's one there on the side, watch her, see? There's one.
Except for, they ran. They go back.
There's one on the side, see?
She's laying her egg.
Yeah, they're laying the side in the cleaner. Yeah. And there's one over here doing it. Yeah, see, she's laying her eggs. They said that they all try to get in there to lay their eggs. She does all the work. She came to stay. See, there they are.
A lot of people came to watch the salmon and the bears. Got a viewing platform down the creek there a little way. We may have to come back later tonight to see the bears.
A black bear coming in to get him a salmon.
He's He's going in the water, going hunting a fish now.
He's taking his time. 80 yards from where we're standing. There he goes. He's going to go up and get him. Hey, Curtis. Your son just shot one. Did you try to take a picture of it? He must not be very hungry.
You go choose him a big one.
I'd like to see him jump after a while. I'm back in the woods.
He said he wouldn't fish tonight. Yeah, we'll wait on another one.
Okay, this brown's coming down towards you. She's going to be in your view in just a minute. Just give me help and get a hand. Let's see if there's
We drove up the mountain up above Hyder to look at Salmon Glacier. Way up in the mountains, and we're up above the glacier now looking down on it. Mosquitoes are after us. That's a lot of ice down there. We can hear chunks of it breaking off every now and then down in this gorge down here. Let's see, there's the road going on up. We might go up a little bit further and see what's up there. Sign says it gets narrow up there. Real foggy. Can't see the tops of these mountains. Foggy, foggy. And there's the road we came up. Came on up the road a little further and got up above the glacier, looking down on it here. That is really something. It's real foggy. I guess we won't go up any further. We'll be able to see less up there because of the fog. Mosquitoes are bad up here. Yeah, the road goes on, but I don't think we're going to go any further. We've seen enough of it. Visibility's getting bad. We just left Hyder and Stewart this morning, heading back to the Cassiar Highway. Stopped at this turnout to look at this glacier. Right beside the highway. Pretty blue looking ice. Sliding down between the mountains. Still foggy up in the higher elevation. We're waiting here for Bobby and Eddie. They had to go get some fuel this morning. Real pretty drive through here. Looks like a big chunk of ice fell out there.